Hi everyone, welcome to PDA Devon podcast. So this is one of our first episodes. We're really excited to film this one. And I'm here today with Stacey. So she is the founder, I would argue, of PDA Devon. She started all this off, which is really exciting, and brought all of us together. I think today what we want to do is have a general chat. We think it'd be really nice for everyone to find out about each of us individually, our journeys that we've been on, our thoughts on PDA and the system, and it'd be really nice to just explore that going forward. I just want to say we really want to make this channel, no judgment whatsoever. We are really aware that people have different circumstances. We've all got different things going on. So please be aware when you're watching that, we're all going through our own journeys, however that may look. And this is today Stacey's journey. So that's what we're exploring today and having a look at. So firstly, Stace, I want to ask you about your family and your circumstances.
Okay. So I feel like that's quite a big question.
Yeah,
That's a big question, yeah.
Who are your family?
So I'm married.
And who are you?
And I have 3 sons. My eldest son is diagnosed PDA. He's 9. And then I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my eldest son also, he has a ADHD diagnosis, and his other diagnosis is autistic with a PDA profile, because obviously, as we know, PDA is not being diagnosed as a standalone diagnosis. So we have that autism with a PDA profile. He managed mainstream up until year 2. And then for years 2 and 3, he was still at mainstream, but outside of the classroom. Eventually that went down to just 3 mornings a week. And then he was doing 2 days alternative provision. And then last year, going into year 4, he has started at a SEN placement. And now we're in the middle of the real slow transition of getting him settled into a new placement. So in a nutshell, that's me. That's me.
I was going to ask you about Noah's journey, but I feel like you've put that in there quite quickly. But also you have quite an interesting background, and I think that would be really nice for people to hear about you and sort of your journey to being a parent and your children.
So I guess my background, I'm one of these people that when I was like 8 and you asked me what I wanted to be when I was a grown-up, I would say I want to be a mum. So I would say that's all I ever wanted to do. Really, that's what I just wanted to be, a mum. I knew that from a really young age. So by the time I got to university, I actually ended up studying education. So I have a degree in education studies. The irony of that is not lost on me, that I cannot get my child to access education in this country.
And you studied it.
And I studied it. And then eventually I wanted to be a teacher, but I actually fell into nannying. Then I ended up traveling the world with different families nannying, which was amazing. And then fell pregnant, had my own children. And so I set up my own childcare business. So my everything is childcare, children, education. So when we had Noah, I was ready. I was ready.
Yeah.
And to then suddenly realize that you're doing all of the right things, all the parenting techniques, and for your child to not be responding was really difficult, because you immediately place blame on yourself and your parenting, and to almost have rehearsed for that your whole life, and then for it to be going wrong in our eyes was a really tough one to take. So definitely for us, chasing Noah's diagnosis did become important at the time, because I feel like we were chasing it for 2 reasons: to get him extra support, but if I'm really brutally honest, we were chasing it to get that validation of it's not our parenting, we've not done something wrong. So rightly or wrongly, everyone has very different opinions and views on all things surrounding diagnosis and labels and all of those things. But for us personally as a family, it was important for us to get it, and it definitely made a difference to all of us, I would say, including Noah. to be able to have that diagnosis.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say from my point of view, having met you, like you say, especially at the start of your journey where you're maybe not so good at sort of standing up for yourself because it's all so uncertain, you don't know what's going on, you feel that feeling of you're a bad parent, or like you're being made to feel like it's your parenting and you're getting that wrong. And having met you, and I'd say this in the nicest way, like it kind of made me feel a bit better that obviously you, like you say, that was your life, like it was your expertise, you were in that sphere at the start of your journey, and it was still happening to you. So it just shows, like, having met you, it changed my perception on the fact that I wasn't necessarily doing it wrong. It can happen to anyone, no matter, like, you could be anyone, any job, any amount of money. It's
absolutely. And I think having set up PDA Devon, the amount of people we've come into contact with and the amount of different professions, like OTs, teachers, doctors, it's everybody is seeking that feeling of, but I know what I'm doing. Like, how is this going wrong? And it definitely, you take a lot of comfort in, okay, well, it's happening to you, something's going on here, we can't all be getting this wrong. And that's what's been so amazing about talking about PDA more and bringing more awareness, is more people coming forward and say, well, actually, I think this might be happening in our house. And that's why it's so important for people to be talking about it and not shying away.
Yeah, no matter what you're going
from
through.
it.
Let's talk about diagnosis. Now, you actually went for a private diagnosis with Noah.
Yeah, twice.
So I would be really interested to hear about that journey, how that happened, because he's also gone through the NHS system as well. So talk us through that and how that worked.
So we initially had him assessed when he was 6. We went private for that. I don't want anyone to think watching this that I am made of money, because it was a lot for us as a family to chase a private diagnosis. Like, those who are going through the system right now or who have done it themselves, they know how insanely expensive these things are. But for us as a family, it felt like the most important thing at the time, and we were lucky enough that we were able to find ourselves in a situation where we could afford it. But not everyone is that lucky, and we know that. But we went through it when Noah was 6, and then that was an autism diagnosis, and the foundings of that stated that he was presenting as atypical and that they couldn't give him an autism diagnosis. And that was really tough for us to take, because we were, everything that Noah was displaying, we'd almost convinced ourselves, well, there's obviously something going on. But what we then saw was, from the age of 6 to the age of 6.5 to the age of 7, we saw such a huge change in his behavior and in his actions. We think we went for the diagnosis too early, because by the time we got him assessed at 7, they were giving us everything: autism, PDA, ADHD. So we think in hindsight we probably went too early, because we were panicking and we didn't know what else to do.
You just wanted something at that moment, like some explanation of what was going on. So it's easily done. Yeah,
but there was it's difficult now, because now we're further along. Now he's 9. Getting the diagnosis was such a super focus for so long, because it was like, we need to get him diagnosed, and we had our reasons for wanting to get him diagnosed. But actually, on reflection, if we look back at all the money we spent, all the assessments, all the appointments, all of that, all of the waiting, how has it affected his life day to day? And actually, the reality of the situation for us is it didn't affect his life day to day. The EHCP made more of an effect, and we were incredibly lucky that his mainstream primary school put loads in place for him, so much in place for him before we had diagnosis, before we had EHCPs, any of that. So I don't know if I could rewind time and go back.
If you were at the start of your journey again, do you think you would not go for?
I think I would put less pressure on myself. I don't think we've gained anything from going private. That's what I would say. I think the money is wasted,
because you've also had your NHS
and
assessment.
So we have all of that on the NHS, but also what the private assessments did give us was really, really detailed reports. So we had really detailed reports, OT reports, things like sensory diets. That is what you're paying for, essentially. But in terms of how much further it got us along, I don't know.
And also, I guess Noah, you know, it didn't bring him personally anything in terms of his journey going
I do
forward.
think that as a family, we've benefited from being able to label behaviour. So I think that's definitely helped us. I think it was really important for us to be able to say to Noah, you know, you have something called PDA, and introduce him to that world. And I think that's made him understand his behaviour more. Also gives him a wonderful excuse to behave like
when they were
like PDA. And it's
bring
also
out the PDA card once in a while.
It's really helped us with our younger children, because we've been able to explain to our 6-year-old why life looks different for his older brother. So pros and cons.
It's difficult, isn't it? And like, it's interesting, like you say, you've really pushed for that diagnosis. Like you say, maybe what was pushing that was the idea that you wanted a reason, you wanted an explanation as to what was going on, and to feel validated as a parent that it wasn't just you getting it wrong. But actually, now you look back and having been through, but that's a long journey, isn't it, that you've been through, and you've learned so much to get to this point. Now you're like, actually, if I was back there now, having known what I know now, I'm not sure I would have gone for
That's why I think these conversations are really important, because back then when we were going through it, I didn't know anyone who knew anything about PDA. I didn't actually have any close friends or family that were going down assessment routes or were even talking about neurodiversity. I lived in a very sheltered world because I'd never been exposed to that world myself. So again, that was one of the reasons why PDA Devon came about, is because it's me sat on my phone Googling PDA Devon, like where is the help? Like there must be Instagram, Facebook, Google. Other people must be talking about this. Which is why
there must be someone like you somewhere else in the world who's going through it.
And again, it's the importance of talking, because once, to begin with, when everything was happening with Noah, we were quite private as a family, and I wasn't sharing. I felt embarrassed. I don't know what the right word is, but there was some sort of feeling of, I don't want to say out loud, I think he's autistic. I think there's a real, I don't know what the word is.
Sort of shame potentially around.
Or like there's a real thing in our country about jumping on the bandwagon. Attention seeking. Oh, he's autistic, ADHD. And there's something that I think stops you from...
It's got a stigma with a label, isn't there? There seems to be that sort of idea that once you've labelled them...
and the damage it might do to... Absolutely, are you excusing it? So I was really, really... I think, again, that's probably why I chased the diagnosis, is I wanted to be able to say, a doctor has told me my child was born with a brain that's different to your child's brain, and that is why he's punching him in the face.
So sorry about that.
He's sticking his finger up at you and leaving the, so it's really difficult, isn't it? And obviously now we're talking about it, I'm now going backwards and forwards in my own head of, would I do things differently? But it is, you've got to stand by your own choices and your own journey.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you're in a moment where, like you say, you're just needing something. So you're just making that snap decision to get you through that part of your journey. I mean, what I would ask is, where did you first hear about PDA? Like, how did PDA even come into your world? Where was that from?
PDA came into my world, should I tell you what it is? Someone had mentioned to me ODD, so oppositional defiance disorder.
Oh, okay.
And I think it might have been my cousin. Someone had mentioned it, and I remember Googling it and being like, he's ticking some boxes, but not all of them.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And then PDA came up. And then I read that and I had my light bulb moment. And I remember saying to my husband, like, read this. And I was like, oh my God, that is everything. And then I found the PDA Society website, and I remember trawling through it, like soaking up all the information.
There's a lot of information there, isn't there? A lot that you can digest.
And then I just remember sort of slowly sort of mentioning it here and there, mainly to teacher friends. Okay. Have you heard of PDA? Like, is it? And lots of them were like, no, I've got no idea what you're talking about. And this is only like 3-4 years ago. And then others were like, oh yeah, I have heard of that actually. And like, I think this might be what we're looking at with Noah. But interestingly, at the time, the idea of him being autistic had not entered my head at all.
Yeah, that's
It was
interesting.
all behavioural in my eyes.
Yeah.
Why is he behaving like this? Because of his presentation, he doesn't tick, in my head at the time, he didn't tick any autistic boxes.
Yeah.
Like, he makes eye contact, his
Yeah.
speech is fantastic. He's, you know, he's not doing any of these stereotypical autistic traits. Obviously, now I know more about autism, he is, but back then I wasn't open to the idea of him being autistic. So when the idea of going for the autism assessment happened, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, are we here?
Doesn't feel right.
It was very strange. But yeah, I remember talking a little bit more about PDA and mentioning it to some friends, which is how I ended up going on a like SEN walk and talk. So a walk and talk had been set up by another SEN mum, but it was very generic to all
SEN in general rather than
all SEN. Yeah, so I went along on this walk, and I remember I had a newborn baby, so my youngest was, I don't know, like a month old, and I remember him being in the buggy, but I was so desperate for help. I was like, I just need to go. My best friend had said to me, I've seen this, I think you should go, because, you know, we are struggling to help you, you need more support. So I went along on this walk, and then one of the other mums mentioned the words PDA, and I was like, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it all sparked from. So yeah, that's how I first heard about PDA.
Yeah, because it's definitely, I don't know if it's because we are constantly talking about PDA, but it definitely feels like PDA is coming more to the forefront now. People are more knowledgeable, they're hearing more about it. But again, it's interesting when you say about the autism. I feel very similar to you. I saw autism very differently a few years ago, because in my head it was that stereotypical, you know, the eye contact, you know, they're able to communicate with people, so they can't be autistic. But the more we learn about it, the more you learn the layers and what that actually genuinely looks for, like for some people and parents on a daily basis. Obviously, people hear about autism on the media, or, you know, and often, you know, there's been times when people have related sort of stuff they hear on the news and they instantly will label, or they might say, oh, that person was autistic, so they're instantly, you know, that's why they've done that.
You put them in a box, don't you?
So it's that negative sort of connotation. Whereas actually, the more you learn about it and you see the layers and what actually it includes, there's so much more about it and so much more to digest. And it looks so different for so many different people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't it? It's that idea. When you say about Noah's behaviour, can you talk a bit about actually what Noah's behaviour is and how it presents?
So from the moment Noah opens his eyes, excuse me, in the morning, he has to be in control of his situation, of his surroundings, of everything. The minute he loses control, his anxiety shoots up, and it shows very distressed behaviours. He goes into panic mode. So that is all day, every day. If he is not in a safe environment, he will spiral. That's got worse as he's got older, but it presents differently now. So when he was younger, it would look like, you know, meltdowns, a lot of physical aggression, a lot of, as he got older, that turned into more verbal, as he got better with his words.
We teach them communicate more, don't we? And then we're like, oh God, take it back.
So that's the only way I can describe it simply, is to someone who's never heard of PDA, it is a anxiety disorder. And that's as simple as you can make it. Problem is with PDA is that it stands for pathological demand avoidance. That means nothing.
No, I quite like the persistent drive for autonomy.
Persistent drive for autonomy does. But again, you can read that, but not really take in what that means. And what does that mean, persistent?
And what does it look like?
What does it look like? What it looks like is he needs to be in control of his environment. If he does not feel safe, he also needs to be equal. He has to feel like he is equal to the people that he surrounds himself with. He does not live in a world where there is hierarchy. So who am I to ask him to do something? Who am I to tell him to go somewhere? We're equal. The same way that I wouldn't say to you, right, put that down, we're going out. that I would never approach
Can't
you
cope
like
with
that.
Yeah.
We would have a discussion and we would decide together that, you know, this is over and we're leaving. Whereas with a child, it's inbuilt in us.
Yeah.
We're in control of them,
Yeah.
you know.
And we must be for us to parent properly.
Yeah. That's how you raise your children. You teach them and you guide them, but that is you being in control of their day. So once you get your head around the idea of this level playing field, that makes your life easier. It's not easy.
No.
It's really hard. Really, really hard.
Yeah.
And it only gets easier if you practice it.
Yeah.
But it throws out the whole parenting handbook that you've been given and how you were raised and how your parents were raised.
Yeah.
Everything we're taught in films, at school, books, everything. You have to throw it all out the window and start again.
Yeah. That
is the only way that your life and their life will get easier. You have to approach it differently. But you will get there.
Yeah. And when he was at mainstream, what do you think were the biggest challenges for him in terms of being in mainstream school, and why that he couldn't stay in a mainstream school?
Mainstream school is rules. From the moment you step through the door, you wear uniform. You have to be here at a certain time. You have to be in a classroom at a certain time.
Even before you get to school, I guess, because there's a start time, isn't it? So that's already a demand.
It's all demands, and it's, you know, you can't even go to the toilet without asking permission.
Yeah.
You can't pick up a book, you can't pick up a pen. Someone is in control of you from the moment you're there. And for someone who perceives control as the scariest, most anxiety-inducing feeling in the world, it's never going to work.
No.
It's never going to work. He masked for a long time, especially in reception. It was novelty. Novelty does work well for him, but it can only go so long, and reception's still very play-based. There's a lot of choice, a lot of free play. Yeah. But then obviously as you move up through the years,
so much learning,
there's more expectations. There's less time outside.
Yeah.
There's more time sat at a table. And yeah, he got to the end of year one. By the end of year one, he was running out the classroom. That's where it all started. We got a phone call to say, Noah has run out the classroom and he's ran out the school. He's climbing the fence. He's, you know, that was the first, can you come in for a meeting? And then that just escalated to he is destroying the classroom. He's ripped down displays. He's smashed a window. He's broken a door. And this is all a child panicking.
Yeah.
Because he's not in control of his situation. He doesn't feel safe. And then eventually they gave him a one-to-one. He had his own table at the back of the room. Again, didn't really make much difference. Then they had to remove him from the classroom altogether because he was disrupting everyone else. That didn't really work, because then they just put him out in the corridor. So then he had more classrooms to try and disrupt. Yeah. And then eventually they put him in his own room. I say it was a cupboard in the center of the school, no windows. And then he was there for over a year. And then that's what his school day looked like. He would go into school, go straight into his room, stay there for 3 hours, watch horrible histories on a laptop with a one-to-one, and then leave again.
That kind of hearing that and hear you talking about that hurts my heart. That actually makes me feel really sad.
It's like feels like you're talking about someone else.
Yeah, because that's really hard to watch as a parent. And also, you know, how did you feel at that time about what was happening from your point of view? You're still searching for that diagnosis. You're still trying to understand it yourself.
I think to begin with, I think deep down, I thought maybe it was temporary because I'd had another baby. Yeah. So think about it. He's 5, he's 6. He's got a brother a few years younger. So he's still you're making excuses on, he's still trying to adapt to that. And I was pregnant. So he knew baby number 3 was coming.
It's a change.
So in my head, when he first started being disruptive, I was like, it's change. He's just reacting to what's going on at home. You know, that's a lot. Another sibling.
Yeah.
I think maybe we moved house around the same time. But things became real to me, I think, when I got that first phone call to say we've suspended him.
Yeah.
That, for me...
And how old was Noah then?
6.
Oh my gosh, wow.
I was going to get upset. No, I've done so well.
Stacey's a crier, everyone.
That might be the longest I've ever gone without crying.
But it'd be weird if you didn't. And it's emotional. Like, we're sat here talking about it quite really, and actually it's making me feel emotional because when you actually look at how that was, and you think about what you've been through, like, that is...
I think there's something about phoning your husband or your mum and saying he's been suspended, you know, like
that word.
I was a good girl at school. Like, I didn't know anyone who was suspended. Like, that was a big deal. So to have to say to friends and family, my 6-year-old has been suspended from school. I mean, and then that continued. I think we hit 13 times in the end, and then that's when they just removed him completely and put him in his room. But even then, like, looking back now, saying it out loud, people might be listening and be absolutely horrified by this, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've met so many people who have had so many experiences of school. As much as that happened to us, and that sounds like an awful experience, it wasn't an awful experience because he was still going. He still wanted to go to school.
Yeah,
which is, you know, I knew people then, because I'd started talking about what was going on more, that they couldn't get their children to leave the house, but he still wanted to go.
Yeah, he was still going out.
So we just kept sending him, like, even if he was just sat in a cupboard with his one-to-one, he was really happy doing that. And that was the thing. Noah always wanted to be at school.
Yeah.
He couldn't be at school.
He had that need, yes.
The other thing with Noah is that he is incredibly bright, desperate to learn.
I can definitely vouch for that.
You know, he's so intelligent, and he wanted to go. And like, even though he was just watching Horrible Histories, you quiz him on Horrible Histories, there is nothing that child doesn't know about history. You know?
I've had a great chat about Greek mythology, and I've learned so much.
Yeah, Greek mythology is the new special interest.
Yeah, but amazing. Like, I mean, I came away with a lot more knowledge, I have to say.
So yeah, I think we were also lucky that the people at that school were really kind to us.
Yeah,
and were very understanding, and I felt like we all had his best interests at heart, and they really listened to me, and we worked together. You know, I've had so many different stories as the years have gone on about different ways that schools have got involved and treated children, and I do look back and think that we were lucky, because also we were lucky as well that because his behaviour was so outwardly, we never really had to fight much for him.
Yeah, because it's there and it's visual and people can see it.
Exactly. So, you know, getting an EHCP, they were practically throwing it at us because he was so obviously in need of it.
Yeah.
At the time, we were in the worst place in the world. Like, he was being suspended. He needed an EHCP. Like, this was all brand new things to me that I'd never been a part of. And, you know, my whole world was ending. But what's interesting and so important about meeting people and sharing your story is that what I now know is that actually I can look back and see, you know, it felt like it was the end of the world to us, but actually we did have a good experience, and there are so many other families out there who are not having anywhere near as much help and support as we had. Like, it sounds crazy to say, we were so lucky my son had his own cupboard that he could sit in for 3 hours a day with a one-to-one. Do you know what I mean?
Actually, like, saying that out loud, but actually you've heard so many stories.
Would love that for their child to have their own space where they could feel safe and regulated, and even have a one-to-one. Like, all of that was put in place before the EHCP was even, you know, approved. So,
which actually can be quite unusual, because the schools want to see the evidence that your child's bad enough to receive the help that they can offer.
I do think that, one of the real positives about reaching out and sharing our story and meeting people in similar situations is that we can reflect back on what we thought was a horrific time.
Yeah.
It was, don't get me wrong, but it has made us look at it like it could have been worse. It could have been worse. And it is worse out there for so many families. Which is why I think it's so important that we share our stories and what we've been through. Because if one people is listening to this or watches this and is sat at home thinking, I'm in the worst possible scenario right now, if they could just think for a second it could be worse, it might make their day a little bit easier. I don't know, but
Yeah, it's so variable, isn't it? And when you're in it, it's so intense and it's hard to see outside of it, and it does feel so dark. But actually, you can look back now and have a bit more clarity about what that actually was like for you. And like you say, the fact that actually things could have been quite different and it could have taken a different turn. And it's so hard to say whether it was better or worse, but that's where you're at that time. And actually, he did get that opportunity because potentially, you know, he could have stayed in that small cupboard and that could have worked for him.
Little Harry Potter.
Yeah. One thing I really want to talk about is Noah as a person and who he is.
That will make me cry.
Yeah, but I mean, I can say I've obviously met Noah, but let's talk about what's amazing about our children, because there's a lot.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Why is it that question is so hard?
Because there's a lot to unpack there. Because, do you know why? Sorry. Do you know why I think that question's really hard? I think it's because we are conditioned. There's no tissues in there, is there?
No.
Sorry. That really went well. I think we are so conditioned at the start of our journeys because we're not knowledgeable enough to fight enough and to stand up for our children. We have been conditioned to believe that they're bad people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really hard one. And it's a really hard one to get past and to deal with, because you want to remain in a good place with your child. And that can be really hard, especially when you're dealing with that on an everyday basis at home. And I think that's why it makes you emotional, because it's almost like we're not allowed to talk about what's good about our kids.
I can't talk. I don't know why it makes me so emotional. Yeah, I think the problem is that we've been in this world of assessments, and every time you have an assessment or meet a professional and tell me about your child, what they want to know is all the negative things,
the worst bits,
because ultimately you're trying to help that child. Yeah. So you it's all the worst bits, isn't it?
It's almost like you become used to saying all the bad things.
Yeah, he does this, and this. So when someone says, right, tell me all the wonderful things about him, it makes you so emotional because you don't get asked it very often. Yeah. And I think when you start talking about all the wonderful things about them, it then makes the situation feel even more unfair. Because he is he's really funny, he's really bright, he's so charismatic. Every time someone meets my son, and this is me bragging, and I will brag because I'm his mum, every time someone meets my son, they only have positive things to say about him. They will say, what a character, like, oh my God. And people always say to me, Noah said this to me, Noah said this to me, and they tell me what he said, and they're so complimentary about him. And it, you know, people always comment on his speech and the way he's so intelligent, you know, like he's always
very
teaching
articulate
people facts, and you know, he is like a little mini grown-up. And it's, I think thinking about those things makes it feel really emotional as a mum, because it makes the whole situation feel really unfair, because the things that he is missing out on is friendships. He's missing out on friendships. He's missing out on social skills. He's not able to... He can have a conversation with you in his own home, in his own room, and be a certain type of way. That version of him, I can't pick up and put in a school.
Yeah.
And that's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because
he's got so much to give.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult, especially when you see him at his best and his happiest, because those moments don't happen as often as you would like to see. When you do see those moments, it's almost heartbreaking in a way, because you want that for him all day, every day. And
you can see that can happen. That is, that could happen for him. He's capable of that.
Yeah, it will. And it will. I think we're going through a particularly hard time at the moment because we're transitioning into a new school.
Yeah.
And things aren't going great. But I think eventually, I can only hope that they will turn a corner and we will see a better future for him. But it's really difficult to try and think about a future for him, because right now we are where we are and we just need to get through this next stage. And we are, as you know, still really mourning the loss of his alternative provision.
Yes.
That has been a huge, huge issue for for our family, because we had a very, very successful alternative provision placement 2 days a week where he was being himself. He was making friends. He was forming relationships. He felt that he was accepted there and could be himself.
Yeah.
You know, he was laughing, he was relaxed, he was learning, all of these amazing things. And that's been taken away from us. So we are seeing at the moment the knock-on effect of that. But it's also given me hope, because
it can happen. Yeah.
I know in the right circumstance, in the right environment, with the right people, he can shine.
Yeah.
So I'm just holding on to the idea that hopefully that will happen again for us in the future, and he will get all those things back that he feels like he's lost at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you're often riding these waves, and it's almost like you need to just ride it. Like you say, you're going through this time, and it's this hope. Like you say, you've seen it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hope and think, you know, we'll get through this and we can get to the other side. But when you're in that moment, sometimes it's hard to look outside of it, isn't it? When you're in that sort of dark place and things happen so quickly, like his alternative provision's taken away, you know, and that has such a knock-on effect. Like it happens, it can be the next day for some children, which is so hard.
Exactly.
But that knock-on effect that has, them not having that safe place, person, surroundings, can have such a huge mental health effect on them.
That we took a long time to build up and establish.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest thing about that coming to an end, is that we, you know, that was 2 years in the making of him getting to a point where he couldn't wait to go, and he had friendships, and he was seeing these children outside of that setting, and he, you know, that didn't start like that. He didn't start that alternative provision. It took time. So to then be told that that's coming to an end was really difficult, because now we're finding ourselves in a situation where he is struggling to form relationships with anybody, adult or child, because all he has really been taught over the years is if you form a trusted relationship with someone, it will be taken away. So his one-to-ones, his friends, all of those things have all been taken away. And for a child like Noah, the knock-on effect of that is huge. So now he's at a point where he's like, what's the point? What's the point in trying to invest in these people and these children and these adults? Because it will come to an end.
And again, that's that quite mature brain, isn't it? At his age, that's actually quite forward. That's very emotionally intelligent, that he's that clicked on to that. But that also has its detriment in terms of he's so understanding of that, that he's almost quick to be in front of it and say, well, why should I form these attachments when...
And what's the answer to that? Like, as a parent, that's so difficult.
How do you justify other people's decisions?
You can't argue, because he's right. These things have been ended. You know, that has happened. That's fact. So it's really difficult as a parent to... On one hand, it's fabulous that he is bright. Love that for him. As a parent, that's a pain in the ass.
Because actually, there's not being too bright, but almost,
like where are the days when you can just tell the white lies and it all goes over their heads? Whereas now he's like, that's not what you said last Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
It's like dealing with an adult that you've got to keep safe.
Isn't
it, almost? You know, someone who's like really grown up in their own head, but still you've got to parent them and look after them, and that's a really hard dynamic. What for you has been your biggest support? Let's talk about how you've got through this and the people that have got you through it.
Well, it's exactly that. It's the people. It's my biggest support has been opening up. Once I started to open up and explain what was going on and be more honest about what was actually happening at home. Because you know what it's like. How was your weekend?
But again, don't you feel like that's a taught thing from when you're young, you know, that idea that like everything's fine and you put this face on and
I think you know, I'm very lucky that my husband is incredible, and you know, we've been through this together. And he is a fantastic dad, and to have him there, I mean, I couldn't have done it without him. And also I think a real turning point as well was when we opened up more to grandparents, because there is a huge divide, I think, between our generation and our parents' generation, as well as our grandparents' generation. So this whole idea of PDA is just so foreign to them. Even the idea of autism and ADHD and, you know, children being changing schools and, you know, all of these things that have become relatively normal for us, it is not for them. So I know I've told you before, I basically set up a WhatsApp group, a family WhatsApp group, and everything that we were going through, I wrote on there and I added them all in, and I just gave them the option to read, you know, here's this assessment, this is what's happening next week, and I included them. And I feel like their understanding, that made a huge difference, because I think there was a real period of time where they all lost their confidence with him. They didn't know how to grandparent him. We didn't know how to parent him. They didn't know how to grandparent him. So they were almost like distancing. You know, they were scared to spend time with him. You know, and that makes perfect sense. So I think I could see that happening, and I was like, absolutely not. No. So I think it's a real confidence thing, and by including them in what's going on and trying to help them understand it, that not all of them do. My grandparents, so Noah's great grandparents, find it really difficult to get their head around this idea, but they're open to to learning about it. And then the other thing is friends. My friends are incredible, and they all adore Noah, but they were able to say to me, we can only help you so far, Stacey. You need to find people going through the same thing that you're going through. And meeting you girls and, you know, going down this PDA Devon route has made my whole life change. I could cry.
Finding people who are in the same position as you and understanding. We were just talking earlier, weren't we, about in the holidays how often we won't talk, you know, however long that might be for. And it's because we're in the trenches and we know that we are, and we're totally accepting of that with each other. Although we talk quite often, we know that in the holidays or the weekends, we probably won't talk as much because we're there with our kids.
You're dead to me for a week.
Yeah, sometimes that can be literally 24/7 we're with our children, and we are being controlled in that time, and we have to be with them fully engaged. So we're not able to chat. And it's just that level of understanding, having someone that knows instantly, like, you're not ignoring me, or it's not that you're annoyed I've done something to piss you off or whatever. It's that we just know where we're at, and we're meeting each other where we need each other.
And it's that unspoken, what the silence means. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to justify it. You just get it. Like, you know, that phrase is used so often, isn't it? Like, find the people who get it. But it just...
Sorry, I'm sitting in Bella's chair, hence why she's trying to get in it. Sorry, Bells, I do apologise. It's your chair, isn't it? Sorry. Yes, there's power in people, isn't there? There's a real power in meeting those people who get it.
Yeah.
And you don't, like you say, have to provide those explanations. There's absolutely zero judgment. It is just that they get you and what you're going through. What do you feel has been your biggest challenge so far in your journey, obviously?
My biggest challenge has been parenting two different ways in the same house. So my biggest challenge is having two other children who are neurotypical, and I can parent them a certain way that I can't parent Noah. And that is my biggest challenge. On a day-to-day basis, that is my biggest challenge, and I know will remain my biggest challenge forever. That is something that I find incredibly hard. And I guess the biggest challenge is probably accepting that the way you thought life was going to look, it's not going to look. Like, obviously one of the biggest things that we've had to overcome is I've had to give up my business. You know, I don't work. I've worked my whole life, you know, since I was 17. I've worked full time. I've always had my own money. I've always, you know, when I met my husband, I was the breadwinner. Like, you know, I had a career. Like, I was cool.
You're a cool kid.
You know? So I think that has been a real big challenge to overcome, the fact that now I just don't work at all, because I can't, and they have to be my priority right now. I'm in a fortunate position that we can get by financially on one income. It is not easy, and we've had to make huge adaptations to get through that. I do not know how families are surviving when your child has been suspended, for example, was put on a part-time timetable. Like right now, as it stands, Noah's timetable is 6 hours a week. The rest of the time, someone has to look after him. He's 9. I can't leave him alone. For those families that have to work full-time, financially, they will lose their houses if they don't work. What are they doing? Where is the help for them? There's, you can't put your child into an after-school club. There's no, unless you can, at the moment, unless you can afford a full-time enabler who's got that kind of money. Like, it's impossible, and that's been a huge challenge.
And you can't leave them with just anyone.
No?
Obviously, we're looking at people who have that understanding of PDA, who have the knowledge and are able to work inside those boundaries that you need to when you're dealing with PDA children.
The problem, I hate that phrase, like the problem. One of the key issues with a PDA child is that there are only so many people in their world that they feel emotionally safe with. Therefore, it exactly as you just said, it massively limits who you can leave them with. And even though you might be able to leave them with people, that might have to look a certain type of way. For how long? Like, it's really difficult, because where is the help for these families? Like, that's what I feel like that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, I think things will come up here that we could really talk about. I think
trying not to go off on tangents.
I know my next question is going to open up a can of worms as well. But again, I think this is something we can, talk a lot more about. What changes would you make to the education system if you could? Again, we could really go deep into this.
That's such a big question.
But off the top of your head, what changes do you think could be made?
To the education system. The problem, for me, I can only go by my personal journey.
Yeah.
What would I change? I think one of the biggest problems in the UK is class sizes. The size of the classes is huge.
And a lot emerging years now, aren't they?
Yeah. We are not thinking about our children as people with needs. We are not thinking about them as individuals.
Even neurotypical children. Everyone has needs.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we have a huge problem with children being inside too much. They need to be outside. We are living in a world of screens. And we need to be counteracting that, not by putting our children in classrooms on screens, I think one of the biggest problems that we have faced that I wish I could change, and I wish I could go back in time and change for him, is the waiting. So you're always waiting for something.
Yeah. Do you mean like assessments?
I mean everything.
Yeah.
So just everything. And I know that if people could click their fingers and get rid of the waiting list, they would. But for example, it was a really difficult time for us when we had to explain to our son that he could not stay at his school anymore. That, the powers that be had decided he could not stay here anymore. He needed to go to a new school. Okay, mummy, where am I going? I don't know. We're going to go.
When's that going to be?
When's it going to happen? I don't know. Okay, we're going to go around. We're going to go and look around this school. Okay, I've looked around it. I want to go here.
I like this.
You're not. They've said you can't go here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go and look around a different school. Okay, mummy, I like this one. I'll go to this one. They've said no. 5 schools said no to my child. And by the time we got
each one,
not everyone, because by the time we got to the 3rd one, I said absolutely not.
No, I'm not doing this.
No way.
Anymore.
And if I could go back in time, I never ever would have sat down and told him that we were leaving school. But I wanted to prepare him for transition.
Yes, because also, you want to be
just throw it. So we had to go through all of that, and then eventually it was, you're going to go to this school that someone has decided that's never met you, darling, that this is the right school for you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go there. I've never been there. You've got no choice.
Yeah.
I want to stay where I am.
They've made the choice.
Yeah. I want to stay where I am, mummy. Tough. Why do I have to leave?
When you say it like that, that's just
The
mind-blowing, isn't
whole system is not catered for the child's needs.
Yeah.
All of those things have made his life worse. They have all impacted trauma on him that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
What are the answers? I don't know. How would I do it differently? Another thing that I would change is, I think that parents have to be, I know we've got this big thing about parents and schools working together, but the importance of that has to be noted, down to things like when they employed a one-to-one for my child, I'm not involved in that process.
Yeah.
Who's the most important person that this is affecting? My child needs to meet that person.
Yeah.
I need to meet that person. If they're the person that's going to come in and make his whole school day better,
Yeah.
you know, we need to be involved in that process.
Yeah.
Why can't we be involved in that process? Little things like that.
Yeah.
If they're
That
going to
can make a huge difference.
Yeah. If they're going to go down this route of we're going to send children in mainstream schools, we're going to adapt the schools, then they need to be making adaptations. And what we can't see, and which I think we're probably going to see, is mainstream schools with SEN units.
Yeah.
So they'll just split them down.
Yeah.
The neurotypical, and they'll go that way, they'll go that way. But we're all in the same school.
Yeah.
And they're still in mainstream, so they're cheaper to run. You know.
It's you wonder how they're going to kind of jump round these hoops and what that will look like. And I think that would be really interesting. Again, that's something that we could talk about. I think closing up, the last question I want to ask you, what is your favourite memory of Noah?
Oh, I don't know, because there's different ways to answer that. I don't know, because Noah's, that's so hard, isn't it? Because on one hand, I want to answer it like, favourite memories of Noah is when none of this existed, when he was younger. Oh, I can't answer it. When he was carefree and happy and innocent, and almost like when we were innocent, like when we didn't know what was going on. So many memories, but then we've also got so many memories now, because I would never ever change who he is. Oh, go in. I would never change who he is, ever. He's perfect as he is. He just seems to be the round peg in the square, in the square hole. He's not fitting into a system that's not designed for him. I have so many memories of Noah, good and bad. Every memory of Noah is amazing. I'd never change anything that we've been through, even now, because everything we've been through has made him ultimately the person he is today. And he will change the world.
I agree.
Oh, you really got me on the line.